1977, the world bore witness to a film that would change cinema, cement an artist, and influence pop culture for years to come. It was not only an achievement in visual effects, but the culmination of George Lucas's work to make a film while skirting the Hollywood system. The film was known as Star Wars. 2016, 39 years later, the franchise had reached a new boiling point after Lucas had sold his creation to the entertainment industry giant Disney. A year after the smash hit continuation of Lucas's original episodic saga, audiences were taken back to 1977. This time they saw the culmination of misfits that would produce the infamous Death Star plans, which would be used to serve up the resolution of the first film. This film is known as Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. 2022, with the franchise in a peculiar spot, a rather innocuous TV show concerning one of the ensemble members of Rogue One. Flying under the radar, this show gave a breath of fresh air to the franchise with engaging drama, escalating spectacle, and a mature approach that honors the history of the saga. The show is known as Andor. 2025. Andor has once more dazzled the screens of viewers with its second and final season, which aims to chronicle the 4 years leading up to the events of Rogue One, using 4 3-episode arcs to jump a year closer to the defining end of Cassian Andor. Let's jump in and see if this works on this episode of Television Tuesday, where we talk TV on a Tuesday and tell you all about it. I'm your host, Jackson Hamm, and today, of course, we're talking about Andor. I'm going to start off with spoiler-free thoughts. Both seasons of this show have come when both I and Star Wars as a whole needed it most. Andor brings such a sense of gravity to every event and character, possibly even adding some more depth to previously released films like Rogue One and Star Wars. It doesn't hold the viewer's hand, it lets moments breathe, and I simply love that. To me, and bear with me, possible hot take incoming, to me it feels like a Breaking Bad prestige drama in the Star Wars galaxy. It has a specific pacing and style unique to itself that, to me, makes the show. It is the reason it feels like every moment has meaning. It has character painted all over the screen, from dialogue to movement, with bold actors and actresses giving it life. It has a unique soundtrack, expanding the already wide soundscape of Star Wars. All in all, this is Star Wars playing on a whole new level, giving us a new tone that I think would be a terrible shame if we never got any other projects of the same vein. This is a must-watch if you like Star Wars, or not, in my opinion, because I think this show can speak to an audience beyond franchise fans. Gonna go ahead and flash up a spoiler warning as we discuss further. This season picks up 4 years before the events of Rogue One and Star Wars, as Cassian infiltrates an Imperial starfighter testing facility. We get this nice bit of action to bring us in and illustrate that Cassian is in this fight against the Empire, working as an agent for Luthen. Meanwhile, on the farming planet of Mina Rao, survivors of the Ferrix Revolt attempt to hide from the ever-encroaching Empire. Then Mon Mothma attends the arranged marriage of her daughter, as every character gets one step closer to colliding in the Rebel Alliance. I love how this arc gives us an uncertain view of the rebellion, showing how they are still very much desperate cells, all fighting their own battles against the Empire with no united front. It continues to show the absolute tyranny that the Empire institutes on the average Joe. Most of all, it gives us the sacrifice a figure like Mon Mothma took to secure an ever-changing and tumultuous future that promises a confrontation with the Empire. Wrapping up this first arc, everyone is essentially defeated, which is a strong way to open the show, which has to build to the functioning Rebel Alliance before it ends. It really portrays the struggles that were faced in the early days of coordinating a galaxy-wide civil war against Palpatine. 1 year passes, and this arc serves as a sort of interlude. Pieces of the Rebel Alliance are finally moving, but there is still no true unity. Cassian and Bix are seemingly laying low, and both under the employment of Luthen. I like how you can see Cassian cares for Bix and worries for her. You almost see Cassian take on some characteristics of Brasso after he died in the first arc. He's trying to be a solid rock for Bix, but his commitment to the fight and fear for Bix is also restraining him from being what she needs. As discussed in the first arc, the Empire needs to take Gorman, but they're still fighting with a hand tied behind their backs. Cyril brings the political intrigue as we see him finally get his wish, and he gets to work with his girl queen GF Deidre.
Turn out the lights.
In the first arc, we got to see a splintered and ineffectual rebel cell, and now we get to see a united rebel cell with the Gorman front. And they're a little ineffectual as well. Cassian serves as a scout for Luthen, meeting with the Gorman front leaders and essentially evaluating their value as a possible member of the growing rebel alliance. In a well-written scene, Cassian and Luthen argue over bringing them into the fold. Cassian argues that they will be squashed by the Empire, and it would be unwise and possibly even wrong to bring them into the fold. Where Luthen states that if they fell to the Empire, it would be a fire that burned brightly. This scene here officially divides Cassian and Luthen with their approach to the rebellion. Luthen already knows where it all leads. He will take any piece on the board he can, and if that piece is destroyed, he will use it to create 3 more pieces. Cassian is more tactically minded and wants to use them well. I like that this shows the cracks forming between them, so it makes sense when they're no longer working together in the next arc. I think this also shows Cassian's Brasso side again, trying to care for everyone and be a dependable agent of the rebellion. Back on Coruscant, there is some great intrigue, but I'll say that the most interesting tidbit is when we introduce Bail Organa into the narrative, or should I say reintroduce, as we have a recast. Originally portrayed by Jimmy Smits, who was unavailable for Andor Season 2, Bail is now brought to life by Benjamin Bratt. This is odd at first, I'll admit it. I barely caught that it was Bail Organa, but overall, he does well. It's just odd. And honestly, part of the ongoing oddity of recasting in Star Wars. With animation, it seems there is no issue recasting anyone, but live action has seemingly put a loose rule in place for Star Wars. We get something like Solo, where Alden Ehrenreich plays Han Solo, and there's also Benjamin Bratt as Bail Organa in Andor, but we also have CGI Tarkin and Luke in Rogue One and The Mandalorian, respectively. Recasts can work well if done right, and here in Andor, it ends up working out in the end. At the end of this arc, we get a bold look at Saw Gerrera, who has an amazing monologue to Willman, stating that those who would revolt are insane, as he then pressures Willman to huff what is essentially jet fuel. This gives a great insight into the fractured mind of Saw that we see in Rogue One. But he's also kind of right. Revolutionaries in some way or another, perhaps not always in the way Saw Gerrera is, are insane. Taking a ragtag band of people and deciding to fight the powers that be is insane, but in increasingly insane times, what is sanity? As we hit the next arc, it would seem that everything for the Rebel Alliance has been put in its place. Yavin Base has been established and not only serves as the main operating headquarters for the Rebels, but a haven for those wanting refuge from the Empire. It is secret and treated with the utmost security. Things are moving and shaking. Almost everything is where it should be, except Cassian. He's out of the game, injured and trying to recover, and even reluctant to work with Luthen as Willman arrives with a job. It feels like this is Cassian's Dark Night of the Soul arc, where he loses his will to fight. His injury has hindered him and almost hindered his spirit in a way. Before, Cassian was in the fight for himself and everyone he loved, fighting like hell in Luthen's Shadow War. Now, as things become real, we find him at a crossroads. Bix, however, like most women, knows Cassian all too well, taking him to a Force healer who resides at the Yavin base. This scene is another that is nothing short of magnificent, giving us a skeptical and cynical Cassian confronting what we would call a scammer or nut job in our reality. He rejects this notion of the Force and the affirmations given, yet the next day, his injury has improved. If there's one thing Andor is great at, it's the tension building up to watershed moments for characters and the Star Wars galaxy. This show feels so much like a history of the Galactic Civil War in moments, and this arc here feels no different. From the start of this season, we've known that the Empire wants Gorman for a resource. Now, after years of planning, they have their opportunity. Deidre is on site to complete the secret operation she never wanted, and at all times, her boy toy Cyril is just now having a crisis of conscience. Meanwhile, Cassian and Willman move to assassinate Deidre at a Gorman rally in the town square. As each moment passes, you can tell what will happen. The Empire has planned for this rally as a massacre. Gorman, who had already experienced Imperial tyranny with the Tarkin massacre, which was mentioned earlier in the show, has no clue about the magnitude of Imperial violence prepared for this day. A false flag operation which will cement the Empire's hold as they mow down any and all Gormans. Cassian and Cyril are caught up in the madness as blaster bolts fly everywhere. Then Cyril's glance catches a familiar face as he charges across the plaza to tackle Cassian. Then Cyril gains the upper hand as he holds Cassian at gunpoint. A question is asked before his brain is scrambled by a blaster bolt, though.
Who are you?
Which I think sums up Cyril's character. He started as a corporate cop with a strong moral code. It led him down this terrible path, all to fight this shadow of an enemy in Cassian that he could have just let go. Right as he realized everything he worked toward was a lie, it was too late, and he was so far down this path that he couldn't turn back. The only thing left to do for him was to die tragically as he realizes that he wasted his life for an evil empire. This small twist here, and Cyril's face as he realizes Cassian is not some great villain in his life, is gold. It almost reminds me of Aaron Burr being a crash out and blaming Hamilton as some lifelong villain when Burr himself was just a kiss-ass fence-sitter in the end. As Cassian attempts to make his escape amidst the deployment of KX droids, Cassian then manages to secure a mangled one and keeps it for his own. This episode ends as the Gorman cry out into the galaxy for help, and the Imperial media paints a picture of terrorism. This here at the end of the episode paints such a bold picture, as there is a constant pattern now of legacy news media, some more than others, that paint the news in a completely different reality than our own. Then we get the prequel episode to Star Wars Rebels Season 2, Episode 18. This episode offers more than just a cheeky Star Wars Rebels connection, as this is the official galvanization for the Rebel Alliance. This is when Mon Mothma flees Coruscant to become a leading force in the rebellion. It is a rousing episode as Mon prepares to finally speak out against Palpatine in front of the Senate. No politics, no holds barred. She speaks the truth, and let me just let the woman speak.
When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest.
I don't care if you have to cut power to the whole chamber. Get her off the air!
This chamber's hold on the truth was finally lost on the Gorman Plaza. What took place yesterday, what happened yesterday on Gorman, was unprovoked genocide.
Woo! That gets me going, brother. Speak it, Senator Mon Mothma of Chandrilla. Slick Cassian then slips in as he welcomes Mon to the rebellion and gives her a taste of what's going to be ahead as she joins the war properly. Then, of course, this is a prequel episode to something that occurs in Star Wars Rebels, so we get to see how that kind of connects, and it makes sense and even adds a little more gravity to it. Also, Bix leaves Cassian. We'll come back to that, though. Then we move on to the literal days before Rogue One for the final arc of Andor. This one is honestly quite quaint and not as explosive as you would think a finale typically is. We begin with a whole episode dedicated to Luthen and Kleya finally exploring their beginning, while in the present, it is their ending. From the start, we can tell nothing will go right as Luthen receives the first breadcrumbs of solid Death Star intelligence. This show has illustrated that everything the Rebels fought for has come at a cost. This is Luthen Rael's final act of rebellion, taking a blade and stabbing himself before Deidre can scoop him up for the ISB. Throughout this episode, I found myself engaged in this whole web as the Empire finds itself mired in organizational squabbling that will lead to Kleya completing her final mission for Luthen, unplugging his life support so the Empire can never have him. The next two episodes follow Cassian, K2SO, and everyone's favorite new glup shitto Melshi as they embark on a rogue mission to extract Kleya from Coruscant as the ISB closes in. And yes, I said K2SO because that droid he took from Gorman ended up being your boy. Seeing Cassian drop everything and essentially steal a ship to go grab who he thinks is Luthen also illustrates that even if he didn't work for him anymore, there's still a certain loyalty and admiration he kept for the man. So Cassian and Melshi arrive at the safe house, but so do the ISB. Communications are scrambled in the area, so K2 can't warn them, so of course he has to do everything himself, beating his way through the ISB agents. This moment marks the final nail in the coffin that the ISB was marching towards. Inadequacy, incompetence, and petty politics had consumed the fascistic enforcement arm of Palpatine. I love how this arc plays out over 2 seasons, truly showing how incompetence and blind loyalty rules in these authoritarian regimes that will provide no true security in the end, shown in Deidre's arrest and Partagaz's removal turned suicide. The only true currency in the Empire is success at any cost, whatever brings Palpatine more power, and whatever furthers their territory. Back on Yavin, we see the Rebel Alliance political leaders in the same position from Rogue One, divided, unwilling to listen, and not enough spine to fight. As night falls, it's Mon Mothma and Bail Organa who speak about this, while one of Cassian's contacts promises more intel to expand upon what was already brought in. The next morning, we get maybe my favorite scene in the whole show, as Bail Organa visits Cassian to clear him to go and retrieve intel from his contact. Not only do we get a moment of mutual respect from the two men, but Bail finally admits the truth.
If I die fighting the Empire, I want to go down swinging.
And then before he leaves, we get what is, to my knowledge, the first and only time a character says, "May the Force be with you" in this show. Now this is impactful, a line so iconic save for the final episode of a show, but even further, it's the scene that follows as Cassian throws on his clothes and walks to his ship. Walking through the Yavin courtyard and across the landing strips, we watch as Cassian essentially walks toward his final fate, and before he boards the U-Wing with K2 waiting on him, we get a glance exchanged between Cassian and the Force Healer. And now we gotta remember when Bix left Cassian so he could fully commit to the rebellion. Bix appears back on Mina Rao, the farming planet, from the beginning of the season, walking through the wheat-like fields and holding something dearly in her arms. As it cuts, we see she is holding a child, presumably one she had with Cassian, a child he will never meet. Bix had no reason to believe Cassian would die. Everything he did, everything he went through, he was tough as nails and reliable. Cassian always came through. He always came back. Who knows, perhaps as Jyn and Cassian look up to the sky while awaiting annihilation on Scarif, somewhere across the stars, Bix was staring back. This damn show, man, they should just retitle it Peak Door. You know what I mean? All in all, this is the prestige adult drama show that Star Wars needed. It manages to give a new sense of gravity to the universe while belonging to it. I go online and see some folks belittling other Star Wars media to platform Andor. And that's ridiculous because this show can damn well stand on its own 2 feet. It's too bad though that this might be some of the best Star Wars we get for a while. I mean, fingers crossed we get a good old faithful adventure with Mandalorian and Grogu. Andor just brought it yet again this season, and that's why I gotta give it a 9 out of 10 on this episode of Television Tuesday. Go ahead, tell me your favorite moments from Season 2. Hell, let's talk about the whole show, celebrate it, down in the comments below. There's also plenty of other episodes of Television Tuesday you can check out, where we're talking TV on Tuesday. There's our sister show, Studio Cinema Saturday. We're talking about films old and new, ones you don't like, ones you do. And, of course, we talk about cinema, we talk about television, we have our own narrative short films, and some skits on the channel that you can check out and have a good time watching. Since we're talking about Star Wars, you can check out our Star Wars fan film set in the Old Republic. And last but not least, thank you for watching.